This is July the 5th, 2013, and 60 years ago, the Muleshoe High School graduating class of 1953 graduated from MHS, and they are here today at the Oneita Wagnon Senior Citizen Center and celebrating their 60th reunion. And we're going to let some of the class members tell us about what they've done and who they are and what they're doing now.
I'm Wesley, better known as Willard, when I was in school, DeMette. And we left Muleshoe, or I did, right at college time, and I only come back for reunions. But I spent a few years in the Army, and then I married a wonderful woman named Peggy, and she's here tonight. And I worked a few years with the Navy Department, and then I worked with IBM for 27 years. I have 2 beautiful daughters, 3 grandchildren, and they're all healthy and beautiful and very happy. We're happy to be here, as we always are at our reunions, so I'm thankful to be here.
Hello, I'm Billy Ruth Redwine Downing. I now live in Lubbock. We moved there in 2001 from Muleshoe. We'd been here a long time, and besides finishing high school here, well, I worked in several offices. We were just talking how fortunate we were to get a start like we did with people that we had to just teach us common sense if we'd listen. And I married Elmer Downing, and we celebrated 55 years of marriage, and he passed away in 2010. And so now I'm in Lubbock, and I've found myself really involved down there. Our only daughter, Twyla Curvin, it lives there, and my 4 grandchildren, 2 great-grands, and it's wonderful to be close to spoil them in between all of my going about. I've started back to work, green thumb worker, working at the courthouse, helping file all the judicial compliance papers, and there are many, even in this computer age. It's a wonderful thing to be back with my fellow students and celebrate 60 years. We're blessed.
Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Simnacker, and I live just west of the mountains, west of Tucson, out near the Ironwood National Forest and some other national monuments. I married Joan Montgomery, and we had 3 children, Nina, Eric, and an adopted son named William. As a profession, I would consider myself a military. I spent 20 years in the military, and they asked me to leave and go on and do more damage in the civilian sector. So I've been working at that since then, and with some success. But I work with juvenile offenders and other civic groups, Boy Scouts, and those who needed some help in outdoor experiences. And I enjoyed it very much. My military service included an assignment at Fort Bragg, and then after Special Forces training, I was sent to Laos for a period of time, and then I went to Alaska and was sent to language school to study, and then eventually went to Brazil, where I attended the Brazilian Command and General Staff School, and traveled extensively. The following assignment, I went to Vietnam, and I had a unique experience there. And following that, I served in Panama for 4 years. Then I was dispatched to Germany, the Federal Republic of Germany, where I commanded a 700 man and woman hospital at Nuremberg, or as you were at Frankfurt. And then I commanded a battalion in Nuremberg. And at that time, I was asked to go to Iran, and I informed the Department of Army that I'd be glad to go to Iran if they would teach me Farsi. They said, no, you just need to speak good English in Iran. Fortunately, or unfortunately for whoever took the assignment, I would have been held captive for several months in Iran. But instead, we came home to the United States, and I spent a very pleasant year and a half in California, stationed at the Presidio of San Francisco. I have noticed a great change in Muleshoe and the vicinities, the surroundings. It seems like there's more water than there ever was before, and I'm glad to see the sprinkler systems and the thriving economy that has occurred. I consider the adventures and misadventures that I've had in my life to be a part of living, and really unworthy of repetition. But I thank you for observing and listening to us.
Wow, how do you follow a story like that? I'm Buck Johnson. I left here and went to Tech on track scholarship, and through ROTC I got my commission in the Air Force, and eventually graduated as an F-100 Super Sabre pilot. Boy, we thought we were hot stuff in those days. That was the first aircraft we had that would break the sound barrier going straight and level. They fly 3 times that fast now. But anyway, I spent 6 years in the Air Force and had various locations in Turkey, and one 30 miles west of here at Cannon, and spent a couple years in Germany, and had a good time. Came back and went into the farm implement business. My dad was in failing health and needed somebody to take over the store, so I came back and became a farm implement dealer for a few years. Eventually sold to Bill Woolley and Andy Hurst from Freona, and when they bought me out, well, then I went back to school at Tech and got a master's, and got into teaching, and I taught a vocational program at Estacada High School in Lubbock for 5 years, and then went to work for the Texas Education Agency. I haven't had a career. I've had a series of different kinds of jobs. I worked for TEA for 14 years as a consultant to vocational programs in the state of Texas. And following that, I came to Muleshoe. My mom was getting to the point where we either needed to move where she was or we needed to move her where we were. So I got a job here in Muleshoe as an assistant superintendent of schools. And that lasted about 3 years and with a heart attack, and I got to retire then. My current wife is Carolyn, and we've been married 25 years. We, following the closing of her store downtown, Carolyn's Christmas Creations, we've been spending a lot of time at her hometown, Yantis, Texas, and we're at Lake Fork down there, and I can gimp out on my backyard with this cane and sit down and catch 6 to 8 pound catfish that she cleans and cooks, and I eat with gusto. And we're leading the good life down there. It's great to come back. Always enjoy seeing the old classmates at these reunions. And I'd like to put in a plug for Nelda Marriott and the work she does putting together our class reunions, because we really are indebted to her for all she does.
We have 5 more of the 1953 graduates of Muleshoe High School here celebrating their 60th class reunion.
My name is Betty Chisholm Klain. I live in Midland, Texas. My parents was W. Chisholm, and we lived in Needmore, Texas, and we were dirt farmers. I married O.D. Martin, and he died in 75, and then I married Will Klain, and we'll be married 38 years in September. And I adopted 2 boys named Stacy and Scott Martin. And I have 6 great-grandchildren. And I worked for Texas Electric. I was a dispatcher for 23 years. I don't have any military service. And interesting things I remember about Muleshoe High School was that I had a lot of friends and I enjoyed it. I had some aggravating teachers, and I was in the new school. I understand that it's better now. And the teachers, I had one was Ola B. Jones, and she never did like me. There was no way you could make her like me. So when we went on the senior trip, when I got up in Colorado, my nose started bleeding, and it bled and bled, and they finally stopped at the hospital, and they had my nose packed with gauze. And so when I was on the bus, I turned over and went to sleep. And I guess the boys thought it was so inviting, and they kept hitting me on my bottom. So I got up, and I had to fight them, and I give them a whipping, and Miss Jones says, I'll just throw you off this bus. And I says, well, if you do, you're going with me. And she turned around and says, and we just had a wonderful time. And to me, life has been very interesting.
I'm Howard Watson. I was born here in Bailey County, and went to school in the first grade in Meta, Texas. first grade, and in the second grade I went to Baileyboro. Third grade I went to Longview. In the fourth grade I went to Fairview, and then they consolidated us up here at Muleshoe. So if you moved a mile or mile and a half down around Baileyboro, you changed school districts. And I remember Betty, I lived over close to the old Bailey Gin area, and we rode the same school bus for several years. And the thing I remember about Betty is she would get off the bus and she would run always a good half a mile. Quarter of a mile anyway. She'd run all the way to the house the next morning when we picked her up. She'd come running back. She was pretty athletic. She stayed in shape doing that. I married Judy Bruns. She went to school here 1 year, and then they moved up in the Freona community, and she graduated from high school up there. And we've got 2 boys. Troy is over in Afghanistan right now on his third or fourth tour, I guess. He made 2 tours in Iraq and about the 3 tours in Afghanistan. He was a contractor currently, and he has seen a lot of interesting things over there that most of them he can't tell me about. But my mom and dad were C.A. Charlie Watson, and Letitia used to be a Bass. She was a sister to Harvey Bass, and my military service, I joined the Texas National Guard when I was in high school, and I remember Mr. Kirk, our superintendent, he kind of waved bye-bye to me because he was sure I'd be gone before they ended the Korean War. But they finally got it over with before we were called to active duty, or we weren't called. And I spent 20 years in the National Guard and had a wonderful career. Had to go up through the ranks because I didn't have a college education, but I did manage to go to many military schools, including Army Aviation, in fixed wing, and then in helicopters, and wound up on brigade staff, and then retired as a major. We've got 2 boys, Troy and Neil. Neil is down in Houston, and his primary strength, I think, is in computers. And Muleshoe's changed a lot. There were the schools that were really added to them, rejuvenated them. They're not recognizable to the old schools that we went to in. And I called all the teachers my favorites because I felt like that was the thing to do at the time. And that's just about it. I really enjoyed seeing all the classmates come back, and we've had a good time this weekend.
I'm Pat Benson. I was born and raised out at Progress. I went to elementary school at all the way through the 8th grade at Progress, and then moved into Muleshoe, came to Muleshoe to high school. When I first came to high school, I was a little smarter than most of the teachers, so I just quit and stayed out 2 years and decided I wasn't hardly as smart as I thought I was, so I went back and graduated from high school in '53 with the group that's here tonight, and it's really something to come back and see all the people, how much we've changed. I know I haven't changed any, but everybody else seems to have gotten older, so I don't know what the problem is. And but we left after we got out of school. June and I married June DeMint in 1954. This next April we'll celebrate our 60th wedding anniversary, and so we left. I left Muleshoe and went to the oil field and made our fortune in the oil field. And if you've ever been in the oil field, you know what kind of fortune I'm talking about. Worked with them for a long time and went overseas in the oil field. Came back and went back to farming here at Muleshoe, and farmed for about 20 years right here north of Muleshoe. And then we decided we stayed in one place too long, so we sold out here and moved to Arkansas and then to East Texas and different places, bought places and sold them. And so then in about 1990, I lost my vision. I don't see, but it's very little. So you just learn to do what you can do, and so anyhow, I get around all right. But right now we've moved back to northwest Arkansas. We live at Farmington, Arkansas. Our youngest daughter lives there, and we live very close to them so that they can kind of help us out when we need it. And so we have 3 children, a son that lives in Amarillo, and then a daughter that lives in Denver, and one lives there in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So we've got grandchildren that live there and great-grandchildren that live there in Arkansas. So we've been real blessed in them. We don't do much of anything now. Whenever I lost my vision, I retired from running a contract post office in Colorado. I didn't work for the postal department except as a contractor, but we had a full-service post office, and so when I got to where I couldn't read the addresses on mail, people got upset when I didn't sort their mail like it should be, so we had to retire, and so I've been on medical disability since then, and so we just live every day it comes along and enjoy coming back to Muleshoe and seeing the people here and seeing the changes that are made, and come back and trying to remember, okay, what was here when we left here? I don't even know what was at this spot in the city. It's things have changed, buildings have changed, been torn down and rebuilt and into something else. But we enjoy coming back. And my parents were Vernon and B. Vinson. Dad worked for the Bailey County Electric. He started with them when they were just starting out, really, and he retired from Bailey County Electric. And mother worked around, just in the home and all around town here all the time. But so other than that, that's about my story. I don't know, but we enjoy coming back and are thankful that we are one of the few classes of Muleshoe High School that do get together regularly and still keep in touch.
Hello, my name is Joanne Hale Ripper, and I live in Bethany, Oklahoma, and just barely missed a huge tornado that was coming our way. It was 2.5 miles wide and on the ground, and it wiped out El Reno and got a few miles from Bethany and took a sharp right turn. So we missed that bullet. And my dad was Mac Hale. He had a barber shop here in town, and it's still here, still a barber shop. And he was kind of like a gypsy and liked to move around. So we moved from town to town, but he was thoughtful enough to stay here the whole 4 years that I was in high school. So I got to spend those here in Muleshoe. and I enjoyed them very much. And I enjoy coming back. I was only here for the 50th and the 60th, is all the reunions I've been in. My son brought me, and he was in the Air Force for 22 years. Lived in Germany 4 years, and I went to visit him and stayed there 4 months and got to go to Paris and Belgium and all around. Enjoyed it very much. My favorite teacher was Mrs. Kirk, the English teacher, and I only have 2 children and 2 grandchildren, and that's all. So I think that's about it.
We're in Muleshoe at the Oneita Wagnon Senior Citizen Center and talking with more of the 1953 Muleshoe High School graduates who graduated 60 years ago.
Hello, I'm Joanna Garton, and I was Joanna Schuster Green Garton. And right now I live in Wellington, Texas. My parents were Sally Mae and Henry Schuster. And I married Jim Green in '54, and then I married Don Garton 8 years later. We had our children are Gary Don Garton, Monty Garton, Steve Garton, Dirk Green, Jane Green, and Jimmy Green. We have 15 grandchildren and 10 great-grandchildren. Right now, I am the director of Home Delivered Meals in Wellington, and I try to paint in my spare time, and I like to play bridge, and I like to rest a lot. I have no military service. There was interesting things in Muleshoe. I think we were the first freshman class to go to that new school, and it was a brand new school then, and it certainly doesn't look like it's the same one now. And there was Mr. Wimberly, we called him Wee Willie, and Mr. Baldwin, and Mr. and Mrs. Kirk, I remember those, and Greta Paul. And I'm just trying to keep busy and stay alive, and I'm so glad to see everybody here.
I'm Maxine Black Rogers, and I lived south of Muleshoe, and I married Clinton Rogers in 1954, and then we have 3 children, 6 grandchildren, and my profession was bookkeeper, and I worked for American Valley Incorporated for 28 years. And things that interest me in school is I enjoyed school, and I enjoyed those that I made friends with. And I had some favorite teachers. My favorite teacher, one of them was Mary B. Obenhouse, and Jim Seibert. And that's it.
Okay, my name is Wanda Ogletree Best. I lived in the Longview community south of Muleshoe, and my parents were farmers down in the Longview community. And I got married in the first time in 1956, and I was married 24 years. I was single 3 years, and then I got married again in 1983. So I have 4 children with my stepchildren, and we have 14 grandchildren. My husband was in the Navy, and one of the things I remember about the school is at one point we moved away to Missouri, and we were gone about 1 year, and then when we came back, you guys had all moved into the brand new high school. So I was honored to get to be a part of that, and we had wonderful homemaking rooms for us to learn about cooking and sewing and all those skills we've used through the years. We had a lot of wonderful teachers. We had some that we giggled over. I was talking to one of my friends about one, and we had a teacher named Miss Childress, and we were talking about how when she'd work on the blackboard, her arm would flop. Well, guess what? Now we're there. And then Miss Paul, she was a good math teacher, and Miss Blackburn, she was very patient and kind with us. I was shy, so she would let us recite our poetry after class. So that was a wonderful thing. So I'm happy to be here. I have, they're not here at this banquet with me, but I have my sister, Betty Morrison, and she's from Wheeler, Texas. I have my 2 youngest brothers that are from Missouri here with me also. So we're having a great time as a family, and wonderful to see all of our friends.
I'm Alan Turner. We lived in the Pleasant Valley community about 13 miles east of Muleshoe. Let's see, my parents were Doyle and Alma Turner. I married Dottie Simpson. We have 3 daughters, Cheryl, Suzanne, and Sharon, and only 5 granddaughters. Let's see, I taught college for 40 years, and then I retired, and I now own a business. I've owned businesses for about 50 years. And about Muleshoe High School, when I got here, Muleshoe High School was twice as large as Abernathy High School, so I thought I was coming to a big school. It was a brand new school building at the time, and Muleshoe looked like a big city to me. Abernathy had 1 blinking light in 1 block, one block with business on one side, and Muleshoe had 3 stoplights, 2 movie theaters, and a drive-in. So I thought I was really in tall cotton. Other things I remember about high school, I probably should take the 5th, so I won't say more about that. Muleshoe has a lot of nice homes now that they didn't have when we lived here, like almost every town. I'm surprised that most of our classmates don't remember Corton Flats, which is where the park is now. That was a big lake bed when we lived here. That's where all the couples went and parked. But I guess none of the ones that are still alive remember that. Teachers, we like everywhere, we had good ones and we had so-so ones, and most of them I felt real good about. I felt like almost all of them I really learned something from. As far as interesting about my life, I guess the main thing is I'm still alive, and I'm still working. That's the main thing.
It is July the 5th, 2013, but 60 years ago, these young men and women, who are a little bit older today, graduated from Muleshoe High School and are back at their 60th reunion. Just start with your name.
I'm June Free Sailor. I live in Muleshoe, and the best thing about being here is we were away for about 8 years, and coming home was the best thing we ever did. We have 3 children, all grown, all live within 50 miles of Muleshoe. All have children now, and we retired from farming and got into a number of things, and just glad to be back in Muleshoe.
I'm Jody Blaylock, and I live in Mineral Wells, Texas. and I used to live here in Muleshoe, and it's been I've been gone probably about long time, and Muleshoe is still home to me. I love it very much, and I just we're thoroughly enjoying our reunion that we've had in the past and the one that we have now. And anyway, that's about it.
I'm Nelda LeBlue Marriott, and I came here in 1947 from Oklahoma, and my dad kept hearing about the wonderful farmland out here in this country, and so he just came out and looked around. And it was in the fall, and the crops were beautiful. He came back to Oklahoma, and he said, "We're moving to Muleshoe, Texas." And I was in the 7th grade, and I didn't want to go. Absolutely not. I had all my friends were there. Who ever heard of Muleshoe, Texas anyway? But he loaded us up, and here we came, and I cried all the way. And then when I got here, they teased me about being an Okie. And I thought, boy, it's better than Muleshoe anyway, whatever. And so anyway, I made a lot of friends. I enjoyed going to school here. We had wonderful teachers, and I've been here ever since. And we lived out toward Lasbuddy for a little while, farmed, and then we come back into town. My parents were Virgil and Myrtle LeBlue, and they farmed out, well, actually both sides of Muleshoe. We lived there. And south of town, I think we farmed rattlesnakes. We kept jars of rattlesnake rattlers. And Dad said, kill them. And I even got to drive the tractor, and I remember once I stopped to kill a rattlesnake, and I used all the tools in the toolbox, and even got the bolt out of it, and still didn't kill the rattlesnake. But I did later, got a tire on it and did. So we did our farming, and so we graduated here. I did in 1953, and a lot of good friends, and I married Lonnie Marriott. He went to school at Lasbuddy, and we have 2 boys, Gary and Mickey Marriott. Gary lives in Amarillo, married an Amarillo girl. He is in a TV station there. And then Mickey lives in Earth, and he works for the city of Earth. And they come back often, and he married a girl from Earth, and her parents are there, Don Branscombe, and so we're proud of them. Gary had one son, Jordan. He's 25 and single, and that's the only grandchild born to me. But Don had a boy and a girl, and her son is single, Mickey's wife. So, but Christy has 4 children, so I have 4 grandchildren. And then let me see, Don had the 2, and then the 4 great-grandchildren is what they are. As it says my profession, I worked in the courthouse, and then I was hired, or I ran for office for district clerk, and I became the clerk in 67, and I was a clerk until up in 97, so 30 years there, but overall about 43 years in the courthouse. And I said I was fortunate. I got reelected 8 times, so groceries on the table. I thoroughly enjoyed that type of work. I was never in the service. Lonnie didn't go. We'd been married 6 months, and he broke his leg and various things. He didn't ever go to the service. Interesting things about Muleshoe High School. We were in the old high school. We were the Yellow Jackets, and purple and gold was our colors. I did not want to be a mule, and I did not want to be black and white. But they built that big, beautiful school and moved us over there. And I thought, I'll never make it from one end to the other because there's not enough time. That building was huge compared to the one we were in. But we did. I did make the volleyball team and enjoyed school all the way through school. We had wonderful teachers. I enjoyed all my teachers, and I remember many of them. One thing our class has done at this reunion is to write a book of memories of high school and our teachers, and it's a tribute to our teachers. And now they're confessing to a lot of things. That's good. I said we may put half of them in jail before the night's over, but it's interesting and fun, and we are having a great time. I'm so happy with all of these people that are here from, as you probably heard, from California, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Arizona, all over Texas. And we have continued our reunions from every 5 years until our 50th. We had such fun. We do it every year somewhere now. And they're already talking about the next one. So 61, here we come. Our book of stories about our teachers, we have that book here, and Wes DeMent has prepared the books for us. We'll all get that book. And so we've had a lot of fun with that, our group. We were in the parade. We enjoyed that. And so I'm thankful that Dad moved me out here to Muleshoe, Texas. And I appreciate the town and the people and their news media, and y'all do a great job. I've been watching the parade and the things in Muleshoe. So that about covers me. Oh, in my lap, I forgot. I was going to show you. Somehow, a lot of our stories in our book is about the paddlings they got. And I discovered a couple of things, that nobody gets in trouble by themselves. They have an accomplice. And then they get sent to the principal's office. Mr. Jerry Kirk was our principal back then, and he did use a paddle. This is not his paddle, but you can tell it's well used. I don't remember exactly how I got this. I think it might have been in something Buck had in the sale. But it says class of 63, 64, and the first name is Don Locker. And if that means everybody that got a whipping, the whole class, I think. Oh, it is. I didn't even know. And I don't know why I have it. I guess I hid it from him. Anyway, down there, it has a lot of people's names that I know and remember. But we have it tonight in case we need it.